Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the organisers for inviting me here today. This is a regulation that does far more than save nearly 500,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions, important though that is. It also improves the fuel economy of vehicles to less than 4 litres per 100 kilometres, and in the course of that saves drivers over €500 a year in fuel, paying back any additional costs of technology within just a couple of years. That money that we will save in lower fuel costs, we will then spend, or at least my wife will. We'll spend it in shops, in businesses, and that will stimulate our economy, something that is desperately important at the present time. A study that I'm supporting at the moment, undertaken by the European Climate Foundation, shows that actually the EU's GDP will be boosted by nearly €20 billion as a result of setting more standards for more fuel-efficient vehicles. And it will create nearly 700,000 jobs which are much needed across Europe. Some of those jobs will be created in the automotive industry, in designing new products and services, others in our shops and other businesses. But the regulation will also protect the European Union from future oil shocks. And at a time of enormous instability again in the Middle East, that is something which is also very valuable. But the regulation won't deliver all those benefits unless 95 grams in the regulation actually means 95 grams on the road. And in particular, we need to be very careful in the way we design this regulation, that we don't allow flexibilities in the procedures to weaken the regulation so that it becomes simply another paper target. And supercredits are one such flexibility which is being proposed at the present time. Now let's get this straight. We are very supportive of the shift to electric vehicles. We think there should be support given to them. But supercredits are simply the wrong mechanism for doing this, because they don't encourage the supply of electric vehicles. Principally, they increase the supply of high-emitting vehicles. They make the manufacturers' targets simpler. And this is why. Because electric vehicles are already over-rewarded in terms of the regulation. We don't take account of the CO2 emissions produced in the electricity that powers them. They're treated in a battery electric vehicle as zero emission. That means every vehicle that we sell, we can sell a gas guzzler of 190 grams per kilometre, and on average the manufacturer will still achieve their 95 grams target. But supercredits multiply that effect. The industry proposal that we've seen would mean that for every battery electric vehicle you sell, the regulation would imagine you actually sell 2.5. What that means is that you can sell another 2.5 gas guzzlers for every one electric vehicle you've sold, and you still, on average, achieve your target. This is insanity. This is simply a mechanism to sell more of these vehicles at a cost of selling very few of these. Our solution is a very simple one. We want to do away with the supercredit system and give a proper incentive to manufacturers, a flexible mandate. So all manufacturers have a target of 2.5% sales for electric vehicles or other ultra-low carbon vehicles in 2020. If the manufacturer does much better than that, shall we say above 3%, then they're rewarded, and the target for that manufacturer is reduced in recognition of what they have achieved. However, if they do much worse than the 2.5% target, say only achieve 2% electric vehicle sales in 2020, then their target is increased, recognising the fact that they need to do more with their conventional technology because they're doing less to try and bring new technologies to the market. A carrot and a stick. Now, the important thing about this mechanism is that the manufacturers will need to bring electric vehicles into the European market and test them and give our consumers the opportunity to use them. Yesterday, Fiat announced that they would be producing 100 of their 500 vehicles, my apologies, but they'll be supplying them all to the Californian market, not to Europe. Why are they doing that? Because California has an electric vehicle mandate, and they will be penalised for not selling them in the US. Why is Toyota choosing to sell the IQ electric version in California and not in Europe? Exactly the same reason. If we want to compete with the US, we need to be setting our own mandates, bringing these vehicles to market in Europe, not in California. There's another way that we can drive the market for ultra-low carbon vehicles, and that's to set a long-term target, a 2025 target. We know that manufacturers will not need to supply electric vehicles to achieve a 95-gram target. Some of them will choose to, but they won't have to. So if we want to drive the market for ultra-low carbon technologies, if we want to encourage the manufacturers to invest properly in those solutions now, what we need to do is we need to be setting a longer-term target that does require the supply of those technologies. And that target should be 60 grams in 2025. And it's not an impossible target to reach. This is work in progress that we're doing with AEA Technology Ricardo. And to achieve a 60-gram target in 2025, well, half the vehicles are just current internal combustion engines, probably with smaller engines, probably with turbochargers, but they're just the same as they are now. A quarter of the vehicles, well, they're hybrids. Hybrids have been around already for 15 years. There's millions of them sold around the world. This is not new technology either. It's just capturing the energy in the braking. We would need to sell some fuel cell vehicles and some electric vehicles. They would need to represent about a quarter of the vehicle park. But this is giving the manufacturers some 13 years of lead time to tell them that this is the direction of travel that we need to go in. It's a right policy signal at the right time, and it will mean that the European industry remains at the forefront of these technologies. There's another way in which 95 grams in the regulation won't necessarily lead to 95 grams on the road. And that's because there's a lot of evidence now emerging that a great proportion, a third to a half of the improvement that we have seen in the test results is not as a result of fitting technology to vehicles that really improves their fuel economy. It's actually being caused by the manufacturers manipulating their test results. This is not my data, this is official data from a consultant's report that's been supplied to the European Commission. A third to a half of all the improvement in the last decade has been caused by manipulating the test results, not by fitting technology. We need to stop this now. We need our consumers to be given the fuel economy that they deserve. We need drivers to get that performance. And the way to do that is firstly to close the loopholes that we know exist in the testing procedure, and then to move to a new test and a new type approval system that really means that what we get in the test is what the driver experiences on the road. So 5 key messages just to remind you. Fuel-efficient vehicles pay for themselves, and we can achieve a lot more than the Commission's 95 grams. But if we introduce a lot of flexibility into the regulation, then all we will be doing is weakening those targets and weakening the benefits. There's alternatives to supercredits that do the job better. We need that long-term target of 60 grams in 2025 to set the direction of travel in the longer term, to give those long lead times the industry likes. And finally, we need to close those loopholes in the test procedure so that we really get, when we drive our cars, the same fuel economy that's promised when we go into the dealership. And lastly, of course, this is not just an environmental regulation. It's good for jobs and the economy, it's good for drivers, and it doesn't cost the earth. Thank you.